welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host, Connie, and we are here with a blind reaction to The Dead Zone. This is a movie donation reward reaction for Venom0027. And yeah, I know nothing about this. I don't know what it is, pretty much at all. I don't know like what the movie is about based on even the title. Um, like the Dead Zone could mean a number of different things. It could mean so many different things, and I don't know exactly what it's going for. But we shall see. This is a horror movie, I believe. I don't know who's in it. I don't know when this was made. So I'm going into this pretty much completely blind. And like I said, even with the title, it's too vague. Because that could mean so many different things. It's so simplistic of a title. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm not saying that as if it's a bad thing. It's just, I don't know, because I don't know what the movie's about. And I'm very clearly trying to pad out time here in the pre-thoughts. But yeah, don't know what to expect with this. Hopefully it ends up being pretty good. We'll see. In the meantime, we're just going to get this started and hope for the best. And yeah, maybe this will end up being a really good movie, and maybe not. I don't know. It's always kind of up in the air with me, you know? It's all subjective anyway, but I'm definitely interested to see what this is. That being said, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the movie. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so this is an interesting conflict to have here. Because the premise of this movie, considering that this movie came out, as I'm seeing here, in 1983, the premise of this movie is fine. I would even say it has potential. And the problem here is that the execution of that potential and throughout it, the film itself is absolute shit. And that might sound really harsh, but this was so unbelievably bad. It's wild how bad it was. And there were parts while watching that I wanted to say something about that but I was trying to or say something about that during, but I was trying to like keep my thoughts as like unclear during the reaction as I could, because I wanted to kind of just talk about it here in full. And it was so bad. Let me see what I can find here for the actual reception. So I'm looking up the reception here for how this film was received, and it is baffling to me because it looks like it got very positive reception, and it's like, oh my god, why? Um, okay, so according to this, The Dead Zone received very positive reviews on release. It holds a approval rating of 88% on Rotten Tomatoes, which, as I've stated in the past, don't trust Rotten Tomatoes for your views on things, based on 49 reviews, with an average score of 7.60 out of 10. The site's consensus reads, The Dead Zone combines taut direction from David Cronenberg and a rich performance from Christopher Walken to create one of the strongest Stephen King adaptations. On Metacritic, the film has a score of 69 out of 100 based on 8 reviews, indicating generally favorable. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 3.5 stars out of, I guess, 5, maybe, it doesn't say, describing The Dead Zone as by far the best of the half a dozen cinematic adaptations of King's novels to that date. He praised Cronenberg's direction for successfully weaving the supernatural into the everyday, and noted believable performances by the entire cast, especially Walken, saying, Walken does such a good job of portraying Johnny Smith, the man with the strange gift, that we forget this is science fiction or fantasy or whatever, and just accept it as this guy's story. Janet Maslin of the New York Times referred to the film as a well-acted drama more eerie than terrifying, more rooted in the occult than in sheer horror. David Kerr of the Chicago Reader was more critical, describing it as by no means a bad film, just a disappointingly bland and superficial one, in which director David Cronenberg relinquishes the one thing that had always set him apart from his Canadian colleagues, his willingness to follow his intuitions rather than the logic of a script. Okay, now that I've read all of that bullshit, let me explain my issues with this film. It mentions the acting in these in these reviews and stuff. The acting was so fucking terrible. Most of the actors did a really poor job, even actors who are otherwise pretty good. Christopher Walken is not believable. The entire time I'm watching this, I'm just thinking in my head, am I supposed to be taking his performance seriously here? Because I feel like I want to laugh. He's not believable as a serious actor. He doesn't play the role well. He's unintentionally comical in his performance. It's ridiculous. Martin Sheen, who is a great actor normally, is so fucking hammy with this film. He is hamming it up so hard that his performance feels like a comic book villain in the worst way. It doesn't feel realistic at all. It is so over the top in such a cartoony way that it's just hard to get behind. It just does not work. And none of the other actors did a good job either. And it's nothing against the actors. I'm sure they've done good jobs in other roles. I know Christopher Walken and Martin Sheen have. But in this movie, in these roles, they did not do good. They did not do a good job. And it's like a lot of them were very just cringy. A lot of lines were said in a very unnatural way, especially by characters like the Doctor, Sam, I think his name was, and the ex-girlfriend. Their performances were not well acted, really, at all. But then on top of it, the movie is so fucking disjointed. There are so many plot lines in this film that just do not get proper resolution. Because there's just so much thrown in there. You have the entire serial killer plotline, which is just like instantly resolved and just okay, whatever. That was not needed. You have the entire plotline with the father and his son who needs tutoring. You have the plot line of this political candidate who's running for Senate, I believe it was, who's not only just corrupt, but psychotically evil in the most cartoonish, unrealistic way. Like, there are some very, like, cartoonishly evil people and politicians in the world, especially here in America in this current day and age. But by God, they, like, ramped up the cartooniness of this portrayal. But you have all of these different plot lines and more just kind of like introduced and then resolved without any care in the world. Everything's just kind of thrown at the wind. It's like, we're just going to do every story. It's like, oh, this guy has psychic powers? Let's think. What could we do? We could have him trying to find a serial killer. We could have him tutoring this kid who has all of these not mental issues, but, you know, like learning issues, and is seemingly shutting himself out from others. We could we could do this story about him trying to take down this corrupt politician. No, let's just throw all three into a single movie without giving the right amount of time and effort into any of them. And then it's like there's certain aspects too that are just kind of thrown in, and it just doesn't feel like it gets a proper resolution. Like, what about Sam and his mother? It's like, oh, he called her, he found out she's still alive, but he never talks to her. There's never any, like, satisfying resolution with that. What the fuck is that? Why put that in there then? Also, you have the entire thing about him and his ex, John and his ex, Sarah. And it's like, at one point they very clearly have sex with each other. And it's just like, even though she's married at this point, and it's like, she's just, it's just like, oh, we're not going to do that again. And it just kind of like skips over it. And then they're just kind of like very lightly casual friends, I guess, at that point. It never really gives a satisfying, like, answer to what the hell even happens with that relationship. It's so disjointed because it throws everything in there and just goes from one plot line to the next so quickly, so suddenly, because it wraps up everything so suddenly that it just doesn't give anything the time it needs to breathe. Everything just is concluded way too easily and way too quickly. If this entire movie had been about just trying to track down and stop this serial killer, it could have been fantastic. It could have been absolutely wonderful if that's what the entire film was about. If it was just about, oh, there's this corrupt politician, he uses his power to stop this corrupt politician, that could have been good. If it was just about him using his power to help this kid who is having troubles in his life and in interacting with others, that could have been good. But the fact that you're adding in all of this amongst all of the other parts of this, the fact that he gets in this accident, is in a coma for 5 years, the relationship dynamic between him and his ex, it's just like everything is thrown in. It's like they were just brainstorming they were brainstorming, and it's like, let's just throw all of these ideas in there. And I don't know if that's how it's done in the book. I don't know if that's how Stephen King's adaptation normally is. And so maybe, by all accounts, this is technically speaking a good adaptation. But I don't know how the book handles this all. So I can't say. But just as a movie, as a story, like with these characters and with these different plot threads and everything, it's not good at all. The concept is very good. The potential is very good. But it not only just doesn't capitalize on it, but all the choices they put into here made it bad. all the ways it was handled, the direction of things. It was so quickly moving from one thing to the other. It didn't give you time to breathe. I feel like this could have been handled better if this were like an hour longer. And yeah, I know that's saying like 2 hours and 40 minutes long. But if it were an hour longer and they put in a lot more to each of these stories, it probably could have worked a little better. But the fact that this was only an hour and 40 minutes, it didn't have the time. None of these plot threads had the time to wrap up in a satisfying, well handled way. And again, on top of it, the acting was just not good, even from actors who normally are. The direction of it, the pacing of it, the way it was all handled was not good at all. It's it's so wild to me how a movie can just be this actively bad. I don't remember if you said what you just generally thought of it before Venom. Um, but as always, as I always say, I don't know what I'm going to think of a movie going in, so I have no issue with you having requested this. I don't blame you, and I'm fine with having gotten to see it. But it's one that I just ended up not liking at all. The weirdest thing too is I cannot say I hate this film because I'm more just disappointed. It's not a hate thing. It's not to the point where it's like, oh, this movie is something I actively hate, something I actively dislike. It's more like it's really fucking bad. I don't like it. I'm just disappointed by it. It was just not good. Like there are movies out there that I actively hate. There are movies out there that piss me off even. This wouldn't be one that I actively hate like that. Again, it would just be one that I don't like at all. But I wouldn't say hate. There is a difference. There is a difference. But yeah, it's like this was so fucking bad for me. I can't understand these reviews at all. Like the reviews it's showing here for the reception, it's like, what the fuck? Well, let me see if I can go to let me see if I can go to the Rotten Tomatoes here. I want to see what some of these people are saying. I want to see because I am so fucking confused by this reception. Yeah, because it says 88%, 77% audience score based on over 25,000 ratings. And there's 50 reviews for the tomato meter score. As always, take Rotten Tomatoes with a grain of salt, but still, I do want to see like what these people are saying because I am so fucking confused. Okay, so this top critic here, Adam Naiman, is saying, what makes the Dead Zone so frightening and finally deeply moving is how it commits to the psychology of a guy whose destiny is destroyed and fulfilled by the way he's slipping through the cracks. What are you talking about? Da, 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 da. Here's a negative one saying it's just curiously flat and uninspired. That's a bit of a overly positive negative review. Here's an interesting one. Here's a positive review that it says an unusual, fast moving thriller, even though it seems to be two separate stories connected by the same hero. I would say more than two stories, honestly. Let's check out some of the audience reviews, though. Strong performance by Christopher Walken. Okay, your review is invalid because that was not a strong performance. Um, I've never understood people who say that Christopher Walken isn't. No, he's a very good actor. He is a good actor. But this is not an example of that. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't see what people see in this film. Like, usually it ends up being like, oh, I like a film that a lot of people think is bad, like the first Suicide Squad movie or Batman v Superman. Usually it's that. Instead, this time I find a film really fucking bad that others seem to love. And I am just mystified by this. I do not understand how anyone could see this film as good. I mean, if you do, there's nothing wrong with that. I want to make that clear. This is my opinion. If you like this movie, if you like this film, that's perfectly valid. That is completely valid. I don't understand it, but I will say that you are perfectly valid to like this film. But I don't need to understand it. It's my view as well. My view, I don't I don't like it. I think it's absolutely terrible. I think it's probably one of the worst made films I've seen. Um, and I do not understand the appeal of it. But if you like it, that's fine. I've seen bad movies that I have enjoyed watching before, and I've seen movies that I've defended as being good when other people think are bad. Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman as great examples of that, among others, of course. But this is one movie. It's just like I'm the opposite on. And again, all viewpoints, all opinions on this are valid and should be taken as such. I'm not trying to negate your viewpoint. I'm just sharing my own. So in that regard, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of The Dead Zone? Did you like it? Or were you more like me and just found it really, really bad? Again, any viewpoint is perfectly valid. I'm curious what your thoughts are. So thank you all so much, though, for tuning in. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.